No, stop. You seriously did?
No. I mean, I was trying to make sure it wasn't playing in the background while we talk,
Like
so then you'll have
officially.
the double echo going on.
Well, it says we should be live streaming right now on Facebook. So hopefully we are, and everybody
Awesome.
who is watching us live can see us doing our thing over there. So anybody watching us live, I do have my phone here. You can connect with Colleen and myself, but welcome everybody to Spotlight on the Shadow Seekers. This is my series where I interview people who have gone through Create Your Light Academy, which is my shadow work program, and it is life-changing. The women that I asked to do this with me this week are all women who have gone through both Create Your Light Academy and also through my business program, which is called Radiate Your Light Academy. Radiate Your Light is for people who are either interested in having a spiritual business or they have one that they want to expand. And I wanted to bring them in here so that they could share their experience with Radiate Your Light as well. So we're going to be kicking off this week with Colleen Torrey. She is a psychotherapist, and she's actually from the Philly area too, just like I am. And I just thrilled to have her be the one to start this off this week. So Colleen, hey, thanks for coming
Hi.
on with me.
Thank you for having me. So excited.
I know this is exciting. We never really get to do stuff like this and share about shadow work, especially as therapists.
Yeah,
Since you're a therapist, just like me, yeah, it's like there needs to be two sides. It's like there's the therapist version of me that the world gets to see, and then there's the real me that's behind the scenes doing tarot, crystals, and shadow work. And it can be weird to live in both worlds, right?
absolutely. And
Now, what
therapists don't talk about spirituality all that often. So we're shadow work. So I think this is great.
what's cool is I find that because I kind of took off my therapist hat and just put on my full-time shadow work hat, I've had so many therapists reach out to me over the past few years and be like, oh, okay, me too. And let's talk about it behind closed doors, because it isn't something that you can really share with other people in the therapy community without having them feel weird about it, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I do trauma work with clients right now, and I feel like shadow work goes so well with that, but it's
Totally.
not something that like is taught or like comes up in school when you're training to be a therapist. So when you're in those situations, you're like, I would love shadow work would be great for you.
And it really is crazy when you think about the fact that shadow work started as a psychology intervention. It all stems from the work of Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, who did a lot of ego work in the 1800s. And over time, it's something that I'm sure it existed in the spiritual community before under other names. But Carl Jung is the one who popularized it. This idea that there was a piece of ourselves that we would reject and hide. And if we could take that piece and integrate it, we would feel whole again. And yet our profession doesn't really recognize it in the way that you wish they would.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I do something called brain spotting, which is a trauma intervention, but people see auras when I do it. They talk about things that they don't even remember. Like I'm really digging into the subconscious, which similarly to shadow work, but the shadow work really gets deeper in there. And that's why I love shadow work.
Yeah, it is just like a level deeper because it's getting to that unconscious. But for anybody who has no idea what brain spotting is, can you share? Because I feel like it's so helpful as a trauma intervention.
Yeah, absolutely. So brain spotting is a form of like EMDR. It's like a distant cousin. And it's the idea that where you look affects how you feel. So I'll have clients specifically remember a memory that they want to target and work on. And I'll go back and forth. And usually your body gives it away. So when I'm going back and forth, a client's lip might quiver at a certain point, and that's when I know that we've hit the subconscious memory that they have of whatever happened to them, and they can dive as deep as they like into it.
It's so cool. Our bodies really do hold all this information, and there's so many tells that indicate that something is off. But we're not trained as just human beings in this world to recognize those things, even though it's so innate to who we are.
Or even things that happen to us in like past lives or generational things going on in there. I have so many clients that don't even realize all the things that they're holding inside of them.
Oh, constantly. And even in the spiritual community, I find that there's so many people who aren't fully understanding how to use those pieces. Because I think we have this tendency, both as spiritual people and also as human beings, to look at the external factors instead of going internal, where it's like, okay, if I want something, how can I make it happen around me instead of having to go in here and figure it out?
Yeah, exactly. That deeper level stuff. Like it's so important to figure out what's going on in there sometimes before you even start working on the outside stuff.
Totally. So as a therapist, why did you want to do shadow work for yourself? Like what was going on for you that was like, okay, it's time for me to actually dive into the shadow and see what's there?
Yeah, I think I joined Create Your Light Academy around the time, and I mean, you've heard me say this before, Danielle. I was working at an inpatient facility, and I was just seeing a bajillion clients all at once. And I was so exhausted, and I couldn't figure out why I was so upset with things that were going on. Like I was really struggling. And I saw your post, and I was like, "This is something I need to do." I've always been kind of like spiritually in tuned. I love the crystals and the incense, but I had given all that up because I was so into the sciencey part of like helping people and working on people that I forgot part of myself. So I joined Create Your Light, and I was loving it. And then when you came out with Radiate Your Light again, I was at a point where I was seeing so many clients. Oh, I still am seeing so many clients.
You keep talking about this.
Yeah. So many people all at once that I was forgetting my spiritual side of myself. So when I did Radiate Your Light, I was like, I can't forget this part of myself anymore. I love helping people. I will always love helping women and mental health and, health overall for women. But I was like, I need to start incorporating my spirituality. I was actually trained at a seminary, so I do have the spiritual background,
Yes, you
but
do.
I was forgetting myself.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can no longer do this. Danielle has opened up the gateway for me to continue to incorporate both together.
It's crazy because I feel like so many people have a similar story, like a different version of this idea that like we work ourselves till we burn out, especially as women, where we are
Mhm.
trained from birth to just kind of move and like make things happen around us and to put ourselves last. Like cook dinner, clean, get your house together, make sure that you're going to work a full-time job. Don't have your master's degree. You should be going for that. Also, like, don't worry about burning yourself out. Who else in your life needs you? Can you help your mom, your sister, your cousins, your significant other? It's just always draining. And we all do this, and we shouldn't be doing this. We should not be giving so much of ourselves if we're not willing to put stuff back in. And I would argue do that first before you give anything out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed about myself that the first thing to go every time for me when I'm overly worked and stressed out is my spirituality and being in touch with myself. That's the first thing to go. So I was like, I can't let part of myself go anymore. It's what I bring to the table. And it's probably, that deeper connection with clients that they like to have with me. But when I'm seeing too many, I can't offer that part of myself anymore.
I know. And they make it hard in a lot of medical positions. Like I think people think about the medical field and go, there's so much money there. And in reality, the majority of the money that we make doesn't go to us. It goes to insurance companies
Mhm.
and to licenses and all these other things that we need to just keep the doors open. And so you're seeing a ton of clients, you're making very little off of that. And those clients are also spending a lot of money on that. So it just has not found a way to balance itself out. And the turnover rate for therapists is extremely high, one of the highest amongst all professions, nurses too. And a lot of nurses end up in Create Your Light Academy. I think so many of these helping professions, we're just put into these positions where you just have to give and give and give and give. And shadow work is a way to figure out why that is. Like, what is it about you in particular that makes you feel like you just have to burn out at the expense of yourself?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, through Create Your Light and Radiate Your Light, I was learning from my past lives that I have been a healer before, and I had given until my life had been taken from me. Like, so I'm sure that is stored all deep down in there. And I needed to learn that I need to protect my energy first, protect, the spirituality that I'm giving out, making sure that there's still some for me at the end of the day.
Yeah, and one of the questions I get asked all the time about shadow work is like, once you figure this stuff out, like once you see the past lives and you understand your childhood trauma and your womb trauma and the ancestral stuff, what do you do with it? Like, once you have it, where do you go next? What would you say?
I would say that learning about, all my past lives, which were like in Egypt and Rome and things like that, and Israel, I have found ways to like incorporate that in my life and honor it. Like I mean, I like the direct visual kind of things. So I have little statues from things I saw in my past life or things like that to remind myself and kind of fuel myself as like little reminders, like, you can still be that healer and be that person for people, but remember to always, put yourself in there too.
Yeah, I think what you just said is so important. It is like a reminder. There's the shadow work that we do, which is reprogramming our brains, our bodies, our energy, our emotions. But at the end of the day, you still have to make choices. And shadow work makes it easier to make those choices because it becomes really obvious. Where when you're faced with the decision, like, do I take on 5 more clients for too little money? Or do I keep that time open the way that I've been doing it and keep meditating or using that to be like my day of just getting all my other stuff out of the way so I can feel calm every day? You end up more often making the choice that's best for you. And that pays off in so many different ways. When you make those choices, abundance finds its way back to you. It's not like you gave up those few clients and then the money doesn't come from somewhere else. And in fact, if you give up those clients, you can send them to people who have the ability to see them and have the energy for it. And it works out for everybody. It's totally paradigm shifting, I think. I'm more
Yeah.
biased.
Yeah. And I think another great point, Danielle, as I was thinking about this the other day, is like shadow work is not, therapy is so regulated and there's certain things you can't do and you can't explore with clients because of, insurance companies or things like that. There's so many rules. Shadow work is not like that. Like it can be a casual conversation and get to that deeper level stuff without worrying about, is the insurance company going to check this? Or, should my notes be too detailed or not detailed enough? Like there's so many rules that
Mhm.
sometimes the care and the healing doesn't get reached.
It's true. And I think about this constantly. I feel like there's a fine line between, because there's a lot of coaches and healers out there who maybe don't have an understanding of trauma and they don't have a background in mental health. So they don't know what to look for and they don't understand how to process. Like even the thing you were talking about with brain spotting, where you know what reactions people are going to have when they're hitting certain levels. Your average person doesn't know that. So if there's someone who doesn't know anything about that, that's a huge problem. Flip side is that being a therapist and having all that training and all this background and all this knowledge and having your hands tied behind your back doesn't help anybody either, which is
Mhm.
why it's been so important for me with my certification course, the Shadow Seeker Cert, which will officially launch next year. I have a beta group running it right now. It's like that in between line. How do we bring that knowledge, that expertise, that wisdom, and that understanding and do it in a way where there's not all this red tape? So I'm
Yeah.
going to get you in there one day.
Yeah, 100%. I'll be in line next for it, Danielle. But I think you made an awesome point. Like, there are some coaches and healers out there that are wonderful, but they don't know like the deeper trauma stuff that you need to be careful of when you're working with somebody. And that's why I think your Shadow Seekers program will be great because you already can impart that knowledge onto them, of what to look for, but be able to go deep enough that the healing is a lot greater sometimes.
Yeah, I think that therapists and anybody in the medical field, there's like such a natural inclination towards this stuff that we're kind of like readily able to step into these roles and fulfill them. And we've done it so many times throughout our past lives.
Hmm.
And even when we access past lives, like sometimes in Create Your Light, I have someone who maybe doesn't have all that background, but they have a natural gift of awareness and they go back and see their past lives where they learn those things. And it's kind of like this moment where they're reprogrammed with all the information. Like it just comes in. I know for me, when it happens where I see a past life where I've done something before, it feels like I'm getting a computer upgrade. Like my eyes get like, like back and forth. And all of a sudden I know things I'm not supposed to know, which is weird. But I think our past lives can give us so much information and understanding about what we do in this one that it helps us to show up now and here. And I know that you feel that way with your work.
Absolutely. And I think, to think that I wasn't a healer in past lives would be crazy because my inclination right now is to always help people and put other people first, So being able to look back at my past lives and see, where I don't want to say mistakes, but where like, I faltered and didn't have enough boundaries or things like that is all a lesson for me to learn for now in this life to make sure I don't get to that point.
Oh, totally. So if
Mhm.
you had to describe to people like what your role in this life is, like what is it that you feel like you were meant to do and called to do? How would you explain it?
I use the broad umbrella of like women's mental health, but now I'm starting to realize, I've always again incorporated spirituality because my training was in like clinical counseling with emphasis on spirituality. But I want to be able to help women get that deeper level, that deeper. I've always embodied the divine feminine a lot. That's just how I am. So Radiate Your Light, it really encouraged me to open up my store, which is Divine Connection by Kat, which has all these tools can see a lot of them over here. I have some cards going, some candles and things like that to be able to help people explore that for themselves.
It's so cool. I'm really proud of you for everything. So I think so many times when people hear healer, they have very specific ideas in mind, and healer can be so many different things. And a lot of the time that's being a facilitator and being someone who can connect you to the tools and the things that you need. And your store is going to be amazing. Obviously, I've had a little sneak peek, so I know what's going to be involved with it. We'll get more into that later because I do want you to share everything about your business and what it's going to be like. But since you brought up Radiate Your Light, I do want to dive into that a little bit because a lot of people don't know anything about it since it is an alumni only program. So for anybody watching this, I have an alumni only business program that is called Radiate Your Light, where I take people who've gone through and done all their shadow work and feel cleared and integrated and ready to step into that next level role. And we work on their business, whatever it might be. People who've come through it have done things like create workbooks, create tarot decks, create programs, and also, like Colleen, create spiritual businesses. And it's just incredible to watch the growth happen there. So what happened for you when you were thinking about joining Radiate Your Light?
I wanted to join Radiate Your Light. I think I was texting you a little bit, Danielle. I was thinking about it and going back and forth because I loved Create Your Light. I was like, oh, maybe I don't have the time. And I was like, no, you need to choose you in this moment and further, your spirituality and your deeper knowledge of yourself. So it was just an opportunity I couldn't pass up. So being in Radiate Your Light, I knew I wanted to create something, but I wasn't quite sure yet. And then, going through the process with the girls and everything like that, it made me realize, I need to trust my intuition even more. I remember asking you, Danielle, I'd be like, what does this mean? What does this mean? You're like, you already know the answer.
Why do you keep asking me?
Yeah. I was like, I need, to create something to help women like have the tools to build your intuition, to trust your gut, and know that you know what you're doing. So that's what sparked the creation of the shop.
I love the fact that it went from you being unsure to you actually going like, no, I'm totally sure. And I need to find the women who are unsure, kind of like they're a few steps behind me and I'm going to help them along the path. Because I always feel like when you have a business that helps you from 2 years ago, that's when you know that you're in the right spot. Like if you're always just helping the women who are like right behind you, like, come on, like I already cleared this path for you. You don't have to walk it alone. It's so powerful, isn't it?
It is. And I love sharing things with people. Again, being a therapist, I love sharing all the knowledge, all the things with people all the time. I was like, what a way to still be able to do that and provide for people, but they can do it for themselves too.
I think that's a really important message because we're always got like this consumer market materialism and everything. It's like, you can't do this without me. You can't do this without buying into what I have. And I think any good healer or business should be in the business of ruining themselves in a way where it's like, you don't need me. Like everybody that comes out of Create Your Light, I want them to walk away feeling like they could do shadow work without me, that I taught them how to do it, but now they can do it for the next 80 years by themselves and they don't need me at all to be able to access that. That's the goal. And so being someone who can bring these tools to people and go, no, I can teach you how to use them. And now you use them, take them and run with it and use your intuition and see where it takes you. It gives me goosebumps thinking about it. It's so powerful.
Or that trust that you gave me, Danielle, to be like, yes, that vision I had or that past life I experienced, that is real. That is it. Don't question it. Like that's what I really walked away with.
Oh, I love when I get asked that before every round of Create Your Light without fail. Somebody's like, how am I going to know that what I'm seeing isn't bullshit? And I laugh because I hear it so often. And I also know the other side. Like I've had literally thousands of people do sessions with me, whether they're past life or early childhood or whatever else. And they see it so explicitly. The details are unbelievable and things that they shouldn't know, things that they shouldn't have access to, they know. And you can look it up afterwards. Like, obviously, you're not gonna be able to find out the majority of the people that you were because history was undocumented for people who weren't rich and of a certain economic status. But you can find things like the landscape where it's like, I had no idea that this is what Beirut looked like in this time period until I Googled it and saw it. And it was like, oh, goosebumps. Like that is exactly where I was standing. Or specific things like being able to speak in other languages. Like I had someone who did a past life regression once who was able to read the sign that was on the fence outside of Auschwitz in German. And she is not German. She shouldn't have known that. And it was verbatim. So just stuff like that. You don't know until you know. And once you find it and you go through it yourself and you start to trust in yourself, it's like, of course, what I'm seeing is real. How could it possibly not be?
Exactly, exactly. And you also have this big group of women with you when you're doing create your light and radiate your light, that, when you're still trying to learn to trust yourself, you can be like, what do you guys think about that? And you have all this knowledge and this big group support that I loved and was able to make great friends out of.
Oh, talk about that. Talk about what it was like going through create your light and radiate your light, maybe even as like separate topics, because I think it's different. The group is always different.
Mhm.
And share what it was like to go through it with women.
Yeah. So for create your light, I think I can't remember how many of us were in it, but I remember being able to talk with people that were all from Philadelphia, which is great because we're all kind of similar from the same area.
Such a big Philly group. I've never had that happen in any other round, but your group is like very Philly centric.
Exactly, exactly. So being able to know that these women, were walking a similar path, like in the literal sense, but also being able to walk through it and be like, I had this dream or this vision come to me after our session, and being able to put it in the group and be able to talk it out with other people, you know, who have different knowledge. Like I think we had a couple nurses in our group and things like that, and be able to talk about it from different professions and also different like spiritual views and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, and then with radiate your light, I feel super close to all those women. We were very vulnerable in that group, and being able to talk about it with each other and also build off of one another, and be able to share things. I mean, we still share things. We still have the Instagram chat going.
Which I love. I think that's one of the things I came into creating Create Your Light. It's 3 years ago now. And when I did it, I was thinking a group setting because I thought, I've done group programs before and I've always been someone who was like a guy's girl. Like all my friends were guys. And it wasn't until I went through a group program with women that I just had this aha moment of like, that's the connection my soul was craving. And I didn't realize how much I needed it. So when I created Create Your Light, it was like, no, I want that again. I want to keep making that over and over and over again. But going through each round, the connections that people made, even the fact that people have had past lives with each other or created businesses out of meeting each other in this group and then running with that, it just is unbelievable. And it's not even specific to groups anymore. Like in the alumni group, we have over 100 women. People have met each other in there and done different things like Instagram crossovers and business promotion for each other and trading services so that they can experience each other's sessions. It just is like a next level experience. And with shadow work, which is so vulnerable and terrifying in a lot of ways, having people who get it makes all the difference, don't you think?
Yeah, exactly. And being able to talk it out with one another. I come from a very Catholic family, so that kind of stuff isn't talked about. So being able to have a group of women that are going through it with you and get it and also believe in it is
Mhm.
so, empowering and different than going home and being like, what happened at work? Because it's not the same thing.
No, it's totally not.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like in our everyday lives, we probably have a lot of people who are like, oh, that's cute. And like they don't necessarily understand. But if you can be like, hey, like I just saw something from my childhood that was really messed up and I just need a shoulder for a little while, like somebody to lean on, to have 10 women right there with you, like, yeah, come on, bring it on. I've got you. It makes so much difference. And we do have a few coaches in the program as well, like Nikki Colmoni, who is amazing. And I brought her on geez, it must have been like 6 months ago now to be a part of it. So you got to have her and radiate your light, but not create your light, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. What was that experience like for you now that Nikki was involved and able to also give some insights and help bolster you along the way?
Yeah, so Nikki is amazing and would answer anytime I posted in the group, which was great because you're like, you know, I need to know what this dream meant or what this thing I saw meant. And she would come up with some great answers or things I didn't even think about, which is again the bonus part of the shadow work with you is you get that group of women to be like, no, this you could look at it this way or this way, it's not just you. So Nikki was a great additional support and also so knowledgeable about all the things, to be able to incorporate that into your learning.
She's amazing for that. And she's actually somebody who's an alumni of the program as well. And I think so many people, once they do their own shadow work and kind of like remove all those layers, it's like your natural gifts just shine. Like I know for me, when I did my own shadow work, I became a better therapist, like by a long shot. I definitely became a really great shadow worker, though I wasn't doing it as much before as I was after I really got hot and heavy with my own. Did you feel that way too? Like it just made things explode wide open?
Yeah, definitely. And being the better therapist part, like you mentioned, like I feel like, I can get in tune with that part of myself and feel it for myself, for clients, and also just to be able to feel it for myself. Again, that was the first thing I would close off when I was too busy or too stressed, to be in touch with myself and my spirituality and my faith. It was so great to come back to that because just it feels so good to sit in, you know.
It does. It feels amazing.
Mhm.
And with Radiate Your Light, again, having that support system around you during something as vulnerable as creating a business can be really helpful. Because I know I've launched a couple businesses now at this point. Some of them have been much more successful than others. And when you're doing it alone, it can feel really scary and isolating and vulnerable to have to go to that place and go, I hope this works. And I have no idea if it's going to
Mhm.
versus having a group of people and being like, what do you guys think about this idea? Which I know you did a bunch. You were able to take some of the ideas that you had and play it off the group. Like, what do you guys think about this logo, this name? What items would you guys buy if you were going to a shop? It just helps so much.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, being neurodivergent, I'm always unsure of like what's going on sometimes, or like, will people like this? Like, I'm super into it, but will other people, like, again, that group dynamic of being able to be like, hey, would you guys buy this? Or hey, what do you guys think about this? Or I think I even asked for book recommendations because I just wanted to further my knowledge,
Yeah.
so being able to go back to that group, and ask people.
Yeah, it's really cool to be able to do that. So at this point, why don't you actually go ahead and share some of the things that you have in your shop and talk about Divine Connections by Kat, which is unbelievable. I'm so excited for you. The shop is going to be launching in April, right?
Yes, I'm so excited. I have new products coming in like every day. I get a box delivered. So I'll tell you a little bit. So on the upper shelf, I have some mini cards going. They're like purse size, perfect for on the go kind of stuff. And then I have a Divine Feminine crystal packet going on here. So it comes with all the crystals you would need to get in touch with your Divine Feminine. It comes with a card. And then I also have a goddess pack, which focuses on all the goddesses, comes with a great book and gives the history of them.
I love that.
Favorite thing so far right now would be my goddess candles that I've been creating myself. So they're customizable. So this one's Isis, but you can
Oh
get
my
whatever
God.
goddess you want on it for your altar and things like that. And it's a nice chunky size, which I like.
That I want. I want that. I didn't even know you were doing those. That's so cool.
Yeah, I found it and I was like, there's a couple of gods and goddesses that I love that I find are my guides, and it's hard to find stuff for them. Like Anubis is a big part of my, journey and things like that. I can't find a lot of stuff for him. To be able to customize for people candles and things like that that they want for their altars and things like that, I think is a great option for people.
I feel like anybody who has an altar or wants to create an altar, they need to follow you. So, what is your Instagram handle? We'll put it in the chat afterwards too. But how can people find you online to connect with you in your shop?
Yeah, so right now I just have Instagram going, Divine Connection by Kat, where you can find the little uploads I have right now of the things that are pouring in. By April, the site should be fully running, and I'm super excited for people to see what's coming out.
I'm so excited for you and everything that you have to come. So, let's close it out with one more thing. The last thing I'm going to ask you is what is the most important thing that you learned about yourself doing shadow work?
I think the most important thing I took away, Danielle, is to be able to trust myself and my gut and not always have to go with the sciencey part or the logical part of my brain, being able to just trust that I know the answer and what's going on for me. I think that was the biggest takeaway, which again encouraged me to do the business, made me a better therapist. It just made me an overall better person.
Oh, totally. It changes everything, doesn't it? I feel
Hmm.
like I said that so many times today. Did it change everything?
Life altering.
I think so. I think shadow work is life altering. Oh, we have a question. Andrea wants to know what types of candles are you planning?
Yeah, so I have a couple in the works right now. This customizable little guy is going on. I have a couple of goddess ones coming in. So they have crystals and different gems in them. And then I'm super excited about there's crystal candles, which they are shaped into crystals, like, you know, the little geodes and things like that. So I'll have a couple of different things that people can select from.
I love candles so much.
They're
It's a
all over my office, my home office. I have, if a client was able to see what's behind my desk, I got crystals, I got tarot cards everywhere. Exactly.
candles everywhere, crystals everywhere. I love ritual tools. And for anybody watching, like ritual
Yep,
tools are
exactly.
amazing, right? They're amazing, but ultimately you always have to come back to yourself, and they're tools that are going to amplify you and make you
Mhm.
stronger, but you are the tool. So let those be things that take you to that next level.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so cool. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me. If anybody has questions for you, we're going to make sure that we put all your information below in this thread so they can hop on your Instagram to see the shop when it goes live. I'm coming for that Isis candle. So I'm going to buy the first one of those. Everybody else can get in line after me. But thank you again for coming on to Spotlight on the Shadow Seekers today.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Danielle. And if anyone has questions in the comments, I'm more than happy to also reply to those for the replay people too.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys. Thank you, Call. Love
Thank
you
you.
all. Bye.